What's up? Welcome back. I'm John Stark from ActTheMovieGuy.com, your favorite blind film critic, and today we're talking about the 85th anniversary of Fantasia. This movie is 85 years old. This movie is older than your grandparents. This movie is like so old for a movie. It's getting to the point where it's going to be hard to find people who saw Fantasia in theatrical release, in its original theatrical release. So click like, share, subscribe, hit that notification bell. I'm a blind film critic. I go into things blind. Other people say they do, they don't. I'm pretty certain I'm the only one that does. So I watch things with audio description like this. I watched this with audio. This has audio description done by Deluxe, and I swear to God, I watched on Disney Plus and as soon as it went to tell me the narrator, because older films front load their credits and not backload, it kind of just it was like next up on Disney Plus, like my screen reader came on and just immediately suggested something to me, and Fantasia was over. It's like they almost didn't have enough time to tell me who did the narration for Fantasia, and just done. Over. Finito. And I was like, okay. So Deluxe narrated by someone. I'll figure it out later. But so yeah, well, that's the difference. In 85 years, we now have audio description on this film. 85 years ago, blind people would not have been able to really understand or enjoy this film to the same extent that they get to today. Although why are you here for Fantasia? That's the question, because Fantasia is sort of an experiment in cinema. In many ways, this is experimental film, because in the 1940s, all he did was he put animation, sort of a feature-length animation. I mean, this movie is longer than Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. It's a 2-hour movie with an intermission, and he recorded this orchestra, and they're playing these classic orchestral pieces to what the Disney animators have created for them. So it gives you this sort of appeal of feeling like you're sitting there watching a live orchestra. I mean, when it was filmed, it was. And they're kind of like in front of the screen, right, that's playing Fantasia, and that's kind of what it is. And there's like a conductor, and it's kind of cute. It's very kitschy, because when it gets intermission has the band members getting up and moving and leaving and then coming back on after intermission is over. By the way, you don't actually sit there for 15 minutes. It cuts intermission. But it goes through the sort of the process of everybody leaving, and then it does like a little title card for Fantasia, and then everybody comes back. So your intermission break is I don't know, 2 minutes. So, but it does say 15-minute intermission, which is, we never get intermissions anymore. Your Brutalist DVD doesn't have the intermission built into it anymore with the actual clock. It just, you move on with your life. So yeah, it's just all these iconic scores. And then we're James Taylor is our narrator through the music. Not that James Taylor, a different one, is sort of our guide through song, so to speak. But it's so interesting to hear him talk about things, the way that he talks about the Nutcracker Suite, right? The Dance of the Sugar Plum Fairies. And he's like, yeah, nobody does this before anymore. It's just, you may not have heard this before. I'm like, is he sarcastically saying that? Because I think everyone has heard this. Or is in 1940, was this really not, did Nutcracker have a resurgence after Fantasia? What? I don't understand. But yeah, I think everybody's heard that, the Sugar Plum Fairy piece from Nutcracker. You've also got Night on Bald Mountain, which is crazy, because Night on Bald Mountain, so James Taylor has to introduce it, and he talks about how it's hell. I mean, it's literally like dealing with the devil, which prompts then the audio description team actually has to label one of the characters in Night and Bald Mountain as Satan. So it's welcome Satan to the to the Disney universe. I'm thinking about all of the times that we have had with Disney and how they have these weird sort of like riders about what can and can't be included in their audio description, and they're very specific. And it's prevented things from being in audio description, even though it's clearly obvious to a sighted audience, like what that is. Like the Chippendales Rescue Rangers movie that has all those cameos. None of those are in the audio description. Like they didn't want Beavis and Butthead or the South Park kids or even a lot of the Disney characters just to be in there. So everybody's described by what they look like instead of who they are. But here we've got Satan, straight up Satan. I don't understand Disney anymore. I'm at a loss sometimes. I mean, it is, but at the same time, they seem to want to kind of dance around things when it comes to blind people, where they're like, we don't want to tell blind people things. We don't really want them to know. So we're going to have, don't say these words, don't use these words, don't describe these things. But by all means, in Fantasia, that's Satan in Not on Bald Mountain. We can't dodge that. So, yeah. Is it for kids? Sure. I mean, it's for kids. I think so. My history with Fantasia is I don't like the movie. It's kind of boring for me, but I also respect the movie because I think you have to kind of remember when you're looking to review a movie like Fantasia that you're like, I wasn't in 1940. In 1940, when I went out and saw this movie, I'd have been like, oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my Jesus. Because remember, in like 1940, your animation was limited to like little shorts and Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. Like there was nothing else. You had nothing. So every time you saw animation at a feature length on a big screen would have been like like some sort of like soul experience, just like a revival that you've been having. Just like, oh, I can't believe this is stunning and amazing, and what have I done to deserve this wondrous experience? As a blind person too, the film is heavily reliant upon audio description. And I think what's interesting is I was kind of expecting more, but it's not like I didn't feel like, from what I remembered from having seen Fantasia before, that necessarily that they underdid the animation. It's just the animation isn't like heavy, high action, full of things, that you are missing. I mean, like the whole thing, the animation, the only time anybody speaks is Mickey speaks like a little bit. And when you're looking at it broadly as like the whole film, you get the couple of intros from James Taylor as well. But other than that, the whole film's music. So it's kind of just like sitting down and listening to the greatest hits of orchestral music for 2 hours. And then Mickey speaks in the middle. There's an intermission, and then you go home. If you don't watch it with audio description, it's like a really lifeless experience for blind people. So to add life to it with audio description is sort of impressive. That there's anything there at all to kind of guide us, to help us through, and we get through these things. And I love when we get to Rite of Spring and they want to talk about how controversial it was, and they kind of hint at it. And there was, I think, even a reaction from the orchestra about Rite of Spring. But yeah, it's interesting what they tell the audience and about these little pieces, these little like sort of like incidental quotes or whatever about each piece. And then you get an animated part celebrating it, and we end on like Ave Maria, and then you're done. We're out. That's it. That's the movie. So most people know this because of Mickey's Sorcerer's Apprentice, who became iconic out of Fantasia, and that's what people remember from Fantasia, but he's just one of the shorts that's in here, like one of the pieces. But yeah, all the music here is iconic. You've heard it all before. It's been played in other music. It's not just famous for being in Fantasia. These are famous orchestral works that stand on their own, from larger works that are famous in their own rights, from these major classical composers. Everything here works. And while I don't love Fantasia, I kind of think about it as being this audacious thing that Walt Disney thought of. He was like, well, what can I do with animation? I love that back in the day, he was already thinking about, how do I push and pull at this, style? How do I did Snow White. I did a feature-length animated film with songs as a musical. Now what do I do? Fantasia. So, yeah, it's weird to think of at some point that this was almost sort of like avant-garde in its own way, because you have a film that doesn't really have a narrative structure to it, that you are there to watch like an orchestra play to animated shorts, and that hadn't really ever been done before. So I think it's the audacity that I enjoy out of Fantasia, along with the music. It's just really great. Nowadays we have just everything is done digitally, and less real musicians are being hired. John Williams is like one of the last composers to actually use an orchestra. And when he stops making music, I don't know, man. Everybody's trying to use, make it off their computers and make beats. And you can't beat an orchestral score sometimes. I mean, you sit down and you listen to the scores of John Williams, and you listen to like Star Wars, and you're like, man, that sounds great, because that's an orchestra there. That's the whole thing, the whole band. That's a huge swath of instruments. But now we have some that are just like an acoustic guitar, and that's like the score, and it's fine, and it's lovely, and it's nice, and and then you have some that are just like these electronic, and we're moving less and less away from actual musicians. So I want to celebrate the fact that there's actual musicians in this, and the fact that the audio description track, if this movie didn't have one, it would be totally pointless to watch this movie, because you could just listen to any orchestra. You could go through and just be like, well, I want to listen to, and there's no specific reason why you have to listen to Fantasia's orchestra do these songs. You can listen to the whole piece. You could listen to all of Rite of Spring. You could listen to all of the Nutcracker. Anybody can play Night on Bald Mountain for you. So you don't have to necessarily use Fantasia's music to do it. Anyway, Fantasia, 85 years. And who am I to come along and say 85 years of Fantasia? Boo! This movie's been on Earth more than twice my age. But is it my favorite Disney movie? No, it's not. I can't even pretend like it is. But I did sit down and watch the whole thing, and primarily because audio description. I was like, you know what would be really interesting to hear? The audio description track to Fantasia, and look at that, it's an anniversary year. So, do I want to watch Fantasia 2000? Not really. I might, but I feel like if you've seen one Fantasia movie, you've seen them all. I'm gonna give Fantasia a 7 out of 10. And with a lot of respect in regard to what this was and what it is, and less to the, it gives me the feels, or, what, the Mickey thing is really cool. And even for my Cider days, I always remember the Mickey thing. And even though I wasn't a huge fan of Fantasia, it's like, you just want to see the Mickey part. When you're a little kid, you're like, where's Mickey? So, yeah, that's pretty cool. Anyway, that's it. So, thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. And I will see you guys on the other side.